So a very good morning, very warm welcome to everyone here into our Friday, last day of the week Sangha Live session. And yeah, I really hope this finds you feeling well, doing well, meeting life as well as is possible for you at this time. So taking a moment or two to settle in. If you haven't already, have a little look through the chat and see the kind wishes and beautiful words. And if you wish to, and you haven't already, feel free to invite a response with your good mornings, your hellos, your sharings of where and how it is, where you are. Yeah, relaxing, releasing into this experience. You can settle in. We have a lovely hour together to share in our practice together. And this session will be kind of a culmination of the practices that we've explored, but if you have missed out on them, both there's the opportunity to go back and look into them a little bit more in your own time. All the recordings, as far as I know, have been successfully placed online. But also to mention that each of those practices themselves are almost like a bookmark or an indication of one version of what we could do in that realm. Each of them are endless and offer endless possibilities, and I'll kind of place them on a map for us if that's helpful to see it that way. Otherwise, we could say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to practice with. And when I've worn out the tread of that journey, I'll seek out something new. But for some of us, it's quite helpful just to have a bigger view of like, okay, I'm drawn towards simplism, but actually there is really deep depth, complexity, possibilities that open up here. So both ideas, both concepts of how we perceive this path, how we understand what it is we're doing, will be available for us. So other introductions were done before. We'll have that reflection. We'll go into meditation. We'll have time for questions and reflections. So hopefully that will kind of cover as much as we can do in this kind of form. And I'll mention other ways that we could be in touch towards the end. And yeah, if it's helpful to know, I'm Nathan, Insight Meditation teacher, mainly with Gaia House and with Sanghaseva Meditation and Action. Which means that I both teach silent stillness retreats, but also those that move into the world, what I like to call retreats that touch the world, engage with the social and environmental situation of our times quite directly. So the title of this day is actually not pushing, pulling, or withdrawing. Yeah. Because I think that withdrawing word is really helpful because it can be like, well, just withdraw. Yeah. It's actually based around something that we explored on the second day, which is actually that we tend to push and pull on experience. We say, this is unpleasant. We kind of push it away. We kind of feel that movement in our energetics. Something's pleasant. We kind of pull it towards us, or we pull ourselves towards it. We want to get closer to that thing. And a whole load of our experience is neither of those. It's not particularly pleasant. It's not particularly unpleasant. At least that's how it seems to us. And so we just overlook it. Things that we just don't pay attention to on a moment-to-moment basis. The breath. Well, the breath. It's just neutral, we might say in kind of a blasé way. Is it neutral? Is it neutral? Well, of course it's not neutral. If you were in some situation where you couldn't breathe, or the breath is even just restricted, it's unpleasant. So it's not neutral. It's wonderful to be able to breathe. It's life-giving. When we pay attention to it with kindness, with softness, with subtlety, it opens up. Yeah. So that's the title for the day. The title for this week has been Hasten Slowly. Hasten slowly. And the way that I would interpret that is that there's somewhere that we're going. And it's a big journey. It's an ambitious journey. We have big intentions. We shared into those on the first day. Like, what is it you really want to practice for? Or if we take these Dharma teachings, they're not just saying, well, just accept things and go with the flow. Absolutely not. They're actually saying there's something radically different for you to experience. Radically different. And so that's going to take a journey. It's going to take a movement. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take all of that. And that's the hasten part. But at the same time, we can't pretend that we're where we wish to be. We have to stay here, start where we are, as Pema Chodron has a title for their book. Start where we are. We move forwards without pushing forwards. And we rest back without staying still. And we're responsive, we're inclusive, we're creative. We're not pushing, we're not pulling, we're not withdrawing. There's still possibilities open for us there, aren't there? Still possibilities. Not to push on, not to push away, not to grab onto, not to withdraw, not to stay still. Okay, you've kind of covered my imagined possibilities. There must be more. There must be more. In the sutta that we're relying on, and I'll share all the links towards the end and make sure that they're up for the recording. When I pushed forward, I was whirled about. When I stayed in place, I sank. And so I crossed over the flood without pushing forward, without staying in place. There is a movement through all of these teachings called chanda. And it's kind of any kind of desire could be a chanda, but really it's the aspiration for liberation. Aspiration for liberation. And when we consider the world, similarly like we did yesterday in a way, and also how we have over the days, but if we consider the world of interdependence, like my attention, my how I bring my attention, that interdependence of experience, and also the interconnectedness. We can practice for more beings. Have that feeling that we receive from the past and we give to the future. We're participants in awakening. And as someone beautifully kind of reflected in the chat, we also receive by being able to give. We also receive by being able to give, and we give by being able to receive. And actually, someone has to receive, and that's a very generous, something that they give. Yeah. It's an interlying way, and maybe we could even say, we're receiving into the future, and we're giving to the past by being willing to receive what they've given us. By being willing to give into there. So giving, receiving, sometimes those ideas, they actually just collapse. Might be too early for you to even pass those sentences, And we're also reflecting that when we tune into our past as a gift, our own past as a gift that we've given to ourselves here, it changes that focus a little from, everything that went wrong. Yeah. Or we're looking forward and all the dangers that lie ahead. But both. It's skillful at times to pay attention to that. Skillful at times, actually more to incline to the good. See what that does for us. This way of practicing is actually rebirthing a culture. We're all participants in this culture. How we pay attention, how we bring ourselves into being, what we give attention to, how we see it. Yeah, you can see that we inherit the world and we give it onwards. And we can really pay attention to that way that this path that we're on is vast. It's interconnected, it's interwoven. There's something very beautiful about that sensibility. And so one of the qualities that we could encourage is actually that I'm here to practice for all beings. I think I've mentioned this already, is that we can have a sense, we come in here, I'm going to learn the Dharma, I'm going to practice, this is going to be good for me. And I hope it will be. But we could actually change that whole setting, is that I'm going to show up and I hope that this is going to be for the benefit of everyone. Yeah, it's going to be the benefit of everyone. Maybe I'll get nothing today, but I'm still going to show up and still be that sense in the practice. Yeah. So to be clear, we're moving into this space of understanding what is our experience. Yeah. And as I said, each day in a way has just been a little taster or a version of what we can do. The possibility of possibilities, they're really endless for us. So earlier, we've seen it when we checked in with the energetics of our experience. How different was it when we attended more to the in-breath or the arising of sounds? And then how different is that when we pay more attention to the out-breath or the passing of sounds, particularities within experience? Yeah. So sometimes we may hear, pay attention to the breath, and we think, okay, pay attention to the whole breath. And I've got to be with many of those breaths. And we're breaking that down, saying just being with 3 breaths, but only the in-breath part, or the beginning of that in-breath. We also did it, what about the space between the breath? All of those bring a different experience. Yeah? What we pay attention to matters. What we pay attention to matters. It makes our experience. In the second day, we were actually more attending to a quality called Vedana, which is the declaration, this is pleasant, this is unpleasant, this is neither nor, And what if we don't attend to those in the usual way? What if we come towards, say, like an unpleasant feeling in the body with spaciousness, with kindness, right out at its limits, and start to allow it to feel more welcome to be here, allowed to be here, cared for. It's cared for, not rejected. The how we pay attention to things really transforms our experience. Yeah, so we can choose what we pay attention to, we can choose how we pay attention. As I say, those are just a taster of the possibilities we could do. I thought they would be accessible, I thought they'd be helpful. So I chose those ones out, but that's not the limit. It's not the limit. And then over the last 2 days, we've been exploring our concept of time. How we can bring a different idea about time, that presentism, only the present moment, just this peak of experience, this high energy type of thing, like dropping into the present moment, past, future. Don't let those things drag you down, pull you away. There's only now, only now. And a whole other way of conceiving, which is the past, the future, the experience of this moment is actually stretched out into expansive time. All of the time is here. All of the space is here. All of us who've ever been are here in this moment. And this long line of beings just coming into being, coming into presence. And then this sensibility I just touched on, what we practice for, those intentions, that type of freedom, having that clear, having that well aligned, having that coming through us, and who we practice for, what we practice for and who we practice for, how we can change all of that, change how we come into being in those ways. And this isn't just something for the cushion. We can really apply this to our whole life. Apply this possibility to our whole life. There's always possibilities in everything we do. And it's important to know how I'm doing. Yeah. How are you doing right now? How are you feeling? How's the mind? How's the intellect? How's the emotions? Yeah. How's thinking? How's the heart doing? Head and the heart. How are you doing? How's the body doing today? How's the energy? And from knowing ourselves, and we have a little bit more of that sense of like, okay, what's needed? What's creative? What's supportive? Because we've done the experiments. We've done those kind of practices. Over the last 4 days, we've done different things. It's like, have a sense, what would support that? What would support that? Particularly in alignment with your deepest wishes. Yeah, know what's our broad intention. And from there, we actually can continue the experiment. We have what I call 3 parts to a practice. Set that intention for your practice. And as you set that, how long, what posture, We invent the little experiment. Maybe from day to day, we just change little bits. So I'm going to keep going with that intention of meeting experience with kindness, but now I'm going to do it reclining. Yesterday I did it sitting, and I just like keep exploring. Does that help? Because then we're going to have the second part of the practice. We're going to pay attention to those things in that way as much as we can, what feels like a good rhythm. And remember, you can include rests, include breaks. And then we reflect. Did I do it? What happened when I did it? When I check in to know myself now, the body, the thinking, the emotions, what's working there? What's not? Yeah. So those of us who've been through all of the days will have many tools in which we can actually bring into being here, that we can actually get to sense. What shall I bring? How shall I support it? What will I do? I will, in the guided meditation, remind us of those, and I'll give brief indications so that we can move through. But I just want to mention before we go in there, what is this flood? What is this flood that the Buddha talks about crossing? And the flood could be the flood of the senses, yeah, and getting pulled into that flood of I want this, I need to get this, and we've explored a little bit around there that we can actually rise above that flood. We're not pushing forwards, we're not staying still, we're not getting pulled around, we're not getting pulled under. We're actually bringing in our wisdom, our width, our stability, our sensitivity, and feeling life. We're not pushing, we're not pulling, we're not withdrawing. But another part that we can get flooded into, and we don't even see it, are actually our views. Our views about life, our views about time, our views about ourselves, and very importantly, our views of where happiness comes from. And when we intend with that, when we arrange our life around that, when we obsess into that, that becomes such a key part of our experience. So let's practice together in a way that lets go of that entanglement with sensitivity and also opens out around the kind of views we hold, kind of perspectives we take. All of that will shape the kind of experience that we have. So I invite you to find your shape, find your posture, inviting the body into a way that supports you. Bring your attention to how the body is doing right now. If the energy is a little low, it may be helpful to pay more attention to the in-breath. We may even wish to see that in-breath almost brightening into the body, waking up the cells of the body. That breath could even stretch all the way to the toes. You could imagine that the breath extends that way all the way down to the fingertips. That in-breath filling us with brightness. If the energy is a bit high, it might be helpful to pay more attention to the out-breath, to the ground, to the space around. Maybe as that out breath goes out, there's a soothing, relaxing, softening, and a dispersal of that energy to be recycled, grounding, spaciousness. And if we don't want to be with the body right now, we can do a similar thing with the sounds. Paying attention to the arising, paying attention with a little bit more intensity, a little bit more interest, or to lower the energetics. Maybe it's the out-breath. Maybe it's the fading of the sounds. It's almost like there's an out-breath to the sounds. Resting into the silence between, spaciousness of wider listening. Let's take a little bit of time. Always little adjustments we can make with the energetics. And it might not be a full commitment to the in-breath and leaving the out-breath out, for example. It might be 60% of my attention with the in-breath, 40, 30. Right? So we can moderate that attention. It doesn't always have to be 100% or none. So we can have mini 3 parts of a practice inside the meditation. We do 3 breaths. Just notice, is that helping? At the end of the 3 breaths, we rest, feel the impact of the practice. I usually like to choose, I'm going to be with the in-breath, let's say. I'm going to do 3 breaths with that, rest, check, actually relax. Like I'm digging a hole, I'd stop, pause, have a look. Oh yeah, it's getting a bit deeper there. And then I'll come in again, 3 breaths, in-breath, stay with that. Probably do 3 rounds of 3, some checking before I think about changing the plan. Taking a moment to recall, what's your intention? Why do you practice? What do you wish to see more of? And if that's not something you've considered, then let's just say it's kindness, it's caring, to be more kind, to be more caring. Sure, we'd all agree that wouldn't be a bad thing. And that's practice bringing that flavor in. Oftentimes we talk about letting go in meditation practices, and it's all about letting go. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's about letting in also. Maybe it's about letting things be in a more expansive, more generous space. And maybe there are some things we need to let go of. But we want that letting go to come from a sense of beauty and bounty. There's plenty of awareness, plenty of compassion, and we're letting go, letting through. Once we've met well. So as we breathe, we'll notice some areas are a bit more stuck, letting them in, letting them be, breathing around them. You wish you can see the breath coming in and around the whole of the body. Sometimes you'll notice listening to sounds, some things we're ignoring, letting them in. We're overlooking, not interesting or not nice, letting them be. More spaciousness and letting them go. A broad general idea here is kind of being with 3 breaths in ways that are supportive for the energetics that we find ourselves with. Similar idea with the sounds, shaping what we pay attention to bring a sense of contribution to how we're sensing the world. Like an artist or like a chef, taste, we add a little, we check. You don't want to be jumping around, flitting around too much, so stay with a plan, see where it takes us. Also that sense that in general, maybe more letting in is needed. We can be habitually a bit of a rejecter of experience. Well, I'm not sure about that. Letting things in, trusting it's going to be okay. If at a time it's not okay, then let that go. If there's a big thing going on in our life, maybe it's emotional, maybe it's physical, chronic pain, don't have to come towards that. You could let in something else. Let in the sounds. Equally, with some challenges, it's helpful opening that space, coming out wider, wider and wider, to where it's manageable, where the valence of unpleasantness is tolerable. We can let in, let be, let go out there, allowing what seems solid to become a little more dynamic. Surely it was always dynamic. We can include in that a sense of we only have to be with this for a moment, because there's only this moment. You can't be with it in the past, in the future. There's only now. This breath passing through the present experience. These sounds, anything else, here for a moment and then gone, completely gone. Miss the opportunity to meet it while it exists, in the kind of ways you wish for it to be met. Allowed, cared for, released. One of the key principles in meditation is a willingness to begin again. So if the mind wanders or has been wandering for an age, doesn't matter. It's like we're starting afresh. And that willingness to start afresh is actually what builds on our past efforts. So we never really start afresh, but that willingness is important. Check in. How's the energy in the system now? A little dull, a little overexcited, restless, worried, anxious maybe. All those high energy states really benefit from some grounding, some out breath, maybe even just a little guided relaxation, softening the face, relaxing the shoulders. And it's an invitation to relax, and we permit what remains to allow to remain. And we can meet it like we would meet anything seemingly unpleasant, allowed and cared for, allowed to change, allowed to be here, allowed to go. Letting in, letting be, letting go. But we also play our part, more in breath, more out breath, arisings or passings, whatever feels right. But have that sense, not so that my experience is better, kind of so that they are met well. For your benefit, tension, thought stream, agitation. May you be free. Each time we practice, it's like another drop from a spring collecting into a water jug. Each time we show up. But that water jug isn't empty. It already has plenty of drops from your past practice. But it didn't come to you empty. You're also the recipient of others' practice here and now. We're always practicing with someone else. There's always someone who has our best wishes at heart. Hopefully we also have theirs. And our practice is filling others' jugs, and theirs is filling ours. We have our body, our heart, mind together. We have the whole gang together. And we're in community, wider than we can possibly imagine, stretching also into the past. All those good intentions bearing fruit in this much presence, this much kindness, and also flowing onwards, maybe even to an endless future, from an endless path, in this moment of an endless width and depth. Here it is, another breath, another sound, another chance to shape what and how we contribute our attention. Be willing to make the effort in this moment, just for this moment, just for the length of this moment, to get to know your experience and place another drop of well-being into this water jug that's really none other than your being, contributing to your own goodness. But when you radiate kindness, it's in your consciousness. It's your emotional, energetic body resonance that feels that. not just the physical body, the whole sense of awareness. And it also contributes to the wider body of all beings. The culture in this moment is shaped by what you pay attention to and how you pay attention to it. Play a part, participate. Not about blame and shame, but about responding as well as we wish to. Dedicated, dedicating for the welfare of all beings. Coming into the last moment of the practice, how is it going? How are you feeling? What do you sense? It might be fun to notice that we can play with attention a little bit more than we could before. Maybe we can feel the whole of the back of the body. Bathe that in kindness. Whole of the front of the body. Bright awareness. Sides. And also the insides. May this body be well. Feel safe. And widening that attention out to all the bodies in the world. May they be respected, cared for, looked after, and protected from harm. And the hearts and the minds of all beings be cared for, respected, and be safe from harm. And into the future too. May our practice together be for the welfare and benefit of all beings everywhere, including ourselves and including in all times and all dimensions that we can possibly conceive of. A really deep gratitude for your presence and your practice. And we'll come into the final part of this week together. Any reflections, inspirations, questions, inquiries that you wish to bring in, feel very invited to do that. I'll just say a few words about the dana principle that this is all offered on. And then I want to share some resources and further areas where we can continue this exploration. Probably if you've got the recording or access to the recording, that might be the most convenient place to kind of pick up all of those suggestions. So for now, maybe just to mention very simply that the Sangha Life platform relies on donations. Teachers like myself, we live solely on donations. Come to events like this, offer them freely, and for us to be able to support and keep sharing the Dharma, we ask for support from the Sangha, from the community to do these types of things. So without that, I guess we would find some other way of making it happen. But simply put, this is the way that it flows. This is the way that the whole system turns. And without there being a sense of pressure on anyone individually to do that, as a community, we can hold that responsibility, knowing not everyone's going to be able to give a lot. And if you can give a little, and that feels good and it feels appropriate to your circumstance, please do feel invited to enjoy the giving of support. We're all in this together, we're participating together. But if that's not possible, or it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel suitable at this time, do know that your presence here as a member of this community is precious, really precious. That you're here, that you're practicing, that you're opening, that you're working through your experience, that you're shaping, that you're bringing all of this into being. That's such a contribution, and a really important contribution for us in life to bring into being. Yeah. Thank you for doing that. And for those who can recognize, yeah, as a community, we're probably not that well off as a community. And if any of us individually are a little bit better off, then can we step in? Can we bring up? Can we move forwards? Can we bring that into being in supportive ways? Yeah. So I hope that fits a good balance, and it's really clear you're fully welcome to be here as you are, as you can be, and you're also really, really welcome and invited to participate in the financial sides of keeping this going. So Izzy has a question here. This time, when I heard you say "for the benefit of all beings," I felt so overwhelmed I closed inward. Bring kindness? Question mark. So yeah, it's what does that mean, kind of to be overwhelmed? Was it too much feeling in that sense that then the system felt I need to protect myself from this? Was it particularly too much sadness of considering all the beings in the world who suffer, and oftentimes quite pointlessly? That there's no benefit to anyone from their suffering, and that whole principle can really frustrate us, or it just kind of, we linger in that painfulness of that situation. Bring kindness for sure, but also just check, am I practicing in ways which are also nourishing myself, easing myself, softening myself, opening myself to nourishment within, so that I have a sensibility that actually has flexibility. Yeah. Our experience really is made of what we pay attention to and how we pay attention to it. So yeah, do bring kindness to yourself, but that kindness to yourself, let it actually support you in feeling well within yourself. Yeah. It's a practical question from Heidi, which I don't know if I can answer it. If I send a monthly direct debit, does that money get shared with all the people teaching throughout the month, or would it be better to just give Dana weekly? I'm sorry, I don't know how the situation there happens. I suggest, shooting off an email towards the Sangha Live team to get that. What I do know is that the Dana that's given on a Monday to Friday only will support me for that Monday to Friday that I'm here doing it. If you were to donate next Monday to Friday, that would go to whoever's doing it at that time. If you give on the weekends, it goes to the person doing the Sunday, something like this. So if you're watching on a replay and you give Dana, then nothing will come necessarily to me, but it will be Dana to Sangha Live. So I'm sorry, it's a bit complex. We have talked a little bit about, is there a way to make it a little less complex, or actually a little less misleading? Because if you hear me saying, the Dana is given to me, and then you're actually watching this in a recording, it's actually not. But bit of time travel and all of that. So I hope that's helpful. A reflection from Penny here. I noticed pressing worries, clamoring for attention, demanding a response. Staying present and holding intention for a steady progress forwards without losing balance takes effort, but feels rewarding in itself. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Penny. I think that's really, really helpful to notice that. Sometimes pressing worries kind of demand a lot of our attention and get a lot of our attention. Yeah. And actually they don't get the kind of attention that they were demanding for. Sometimes I wonder if it's a bit like the screaming child, who's, really actually asking for love, but actually is being so hard to be with that they're just going to get tolerance at the best. Yeah. And so what does it really need? What does it really benefit from? And can we give ourselves also time off from the pressing worries, the clamor for our attention, so that we can be able to meet with more presence? And it's not selfish. It's not selfish to radiate oneself with metta and kindness and softness and awakening in all of those ways. So I just want to throw a couple of things into the chat in the last moments. When we were talking about practicing with many beings, I was thinking about One Giant Leap, which is actually something I watched with Martin. He was friends with Duncan Bridgman, or is friends with Duncan Bridgman, who filmed this film and interviewed many people. And there was actually a Maori person there who was talking about how they have this sense that long lines of beings are in us with them. Yeah, and we talked a bit about the Maori sensibility around time, and that when two people meet, it's a meeting of lines of people, lines of ancestors coming into being in this moment. It's like such a lovely sentiment. And it reminded me, actually, it's just an amazing film that Duncan Bridgman and Jamie Cato went around with a camera and microphones and just recorded some of the best musicians, but then mixed them together, blended them together. They actually form this whole of, have Indian musicians playing with African musicians, playing with European musicians, and there's this whole blend, North American musicians. It's sublime, and it's interspersed with kind of wise reflections on how we live our life, how we overconsume the planet, changes that we can make. So I just wanted to share that also as a dana with you. It's about 20 years old now, over 20 years old, but it's still so precious. And as I say, there's a few more things that I wanted to share. I'll ask them to put them on the recordings, because I think that'd be the easiest way for us to be able to access them going onwards. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support and your presence, your support and your kind words, and wish you well. And hope to see you again before too long.